All right, part 3 is literally going to take us 5 or 10 minutes. Now, first thing to do is open up part 3's index.html and change the title from part 2 to part 3. Should literally take you just a second. And then to make it a little easier, what we're about to do is add the footer area. So if you look up on the screen here, my recommendation to you is right after your body, put a comment in there that says start header area, as you can see in gray. And then when you get down to the bottom, you'll have an end header area. All right. So right after your body tag, put a start header area comment in there. Part of my job as an instructor is to teach you about documenting what you're working on. You may have heard me tell this already. Colin probably has, but I don't know about the rest of you if you have or not. But years ago, I worked for an aerospace company in Rockford, Illinois. And they've changed a lot over the years. But when I first started working there, I didn't have much more hair than I do now. And I got a call at the end of my first week saying they literally had a barber shop right in the place. You have to come down and get a haircut. I said, I can't. I've got a meeting. Okay. So they said, well, we'll schedule it for so-and-so. It was like 2 days later. So they called 2 days later, and I had another meeting. I could tell the guy with the call was upset. So he said, okay, I'm scheduling you for 9 o'clock tomorrow. You're coming no matter what. That's how they were. They were really, 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 really regimented. Okay? What?
Did you have a meeting?
No, I did. I talked to my boss. He goes, no, you get your haircut. So I did. Okay. One day the air broke down in the place, and it was over 100 degrees in there. You had to wear a sport coat or a suit all the time. So I had my sport coat off. I mean, I was drenched, and I had my sport coat. I held it over my shoulder. And a guy, I found out later, one of the big wigs there came up to me and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I didn't understand the question. He goes, "Your coat's off." And I said, "Yeah, the air's out. I'm just really, really hot. I'm sorry." I showed him. He goes, "I understand." He goes, "So I won't write you up." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There's 2 times in here that you can take your coat off. They had like an atrium outside where you could eat." He said, "There, or when you're on the pooper." He said, "Other than that," he said, "next time I see you, you get written up. Two write-ups and they fire you." That's how this place was. Okay? So why am I telling you this? Well, after I was there 2 weeks, they asked me to build them an order entry system. And I did. But I'd already told my wife, I can't stay here. I can't work in this kind of an environment. I can't. But there were reasons I had to stick it out as long as I could, which was 11 months. All right? So I said, I'm going to write them this order entry system, and it's going to be the best order entry system they ever had. And I'm not saying that to brag. It was 7,500 lines, okay, of code. Out of that, over a third was documentation. I put comment after comment. I did whole program runs, and I put the input and the output of the program in there. Why did I do that? Because I knew I wasn't going to be there that long, and whoever took over from me, I wanted them to understand what I did and why I did it. So the guy who did end up taking over for me, Mark Wilson, he ran the program the first time, and he was looking at the documentation and the code, and I said, "Any questions?" And he just laughed. He said, "How could I have questions? Anything I could think of, you've answered in your comments." So the bottom line is, I've never had a person say to me, "You put too many comments in here. You made this too easy to understand." Please don't do that. You should start getting used to putting comments into the work you do. All right, so that was the start header area. Down at the bottom here is the end header area. And right after that, this is all we're adding. That's it in gray. So once you do that and you put all that stuff in, just stop for a second, and you save it and run it, it should now look like this. Put your name at the bottom, okay? And it should look like that. So that will end part 3 of this. I will get out of the way. Is it better to leave it in gray or not have it in gray?
In gray, but is that before or after all the
This is after the ending, the last div for your header, because now you're into your footer area on the bottom of the page. So I'm going to get out of the way. and save that. So those of you who type fast, once you run it, if it all looks okay, save it, and we're going to do the same thing. After you save it, close that, highlight everything from your Chapter 3 folder, copy it into your Chapter 4 folder. All right? And then we'll start up in about 5 or 10 minutes. Hopefully 5. Again, feel free to put your name in there as opposed to my name. That's 10 lines of code. So if you are a slow typist, as I mentioned to you before, I'd recommend getting faster. I've said this before, there is a Mavis Beacon free typing tutor that's online. That's pretty good, and there are a bunch of other ones as well. Everybody have that? Did it work for everyone? Again, if that's the case, you can close that, highlight all of everything that's in that folder, copy it to the clipboard, open up your Part 4 folder, and drop that in. All right, and then open up your Part 4 index.html. You can immediately go into the title and change the title to Part 4, and then we'll take it from there in just a couple minutes. So again, last time, if everything worked, it should look like this on your screen, except there's a chance that if you put your name in there, it'll be your name, etc. All right? And to very quickly go over this, let's just talk about what's new. It's another navbar. This time we're saying navbar inverse. So instead of having dark text on a light background, this has lighter text on a dark background. All right? We're telling it before we had fixed top, now it's fixed bottom. We want it to be at the bottom. It's a footer. All right? Again, it's role as navigation. Now notice div class navbar text pull left, which means align that text that we put after it as far left as we can. And that's what we want. Your name incorporated. Remember this? This is one of those character HTML entities that puts the ampersand copy, semicolon, that puts the copyright symbol on there. All right. Dash 2017. All right, that ends that div, and that's everything. We're going to add more to the div in the next example. Any questions?
Now it's supposed to go to 3, right?
Pardon? Yes. But it shouldn't take any time at all if you put it in 2, which is, the other thing too is you can just copy everything over again to 3, go back to 2 and remove that. Like I said, I want this purposely staged like this, so if you have any problems over this semester, next semester, or whenever that you're working with Bootstrap, you can say, oh yeah, that's how I did this. Now again, as Christopher mentioned before, it could change a little syntactically the wordage you have to use as we go from Bootstrap 3 to Bootstrap 4, but the ideas are going to remain the same. All right, any last questions? All right. Then what we want to do for the next part, if you look up on the screen here, so we started here, there was part 1, we went here, there was part 2, we went here, that's what we just did, that was part 3, and next is right here, part 4. So we're going to add some social icons right there. All right? That's what we're going to do next. So what I'm telling you is what we're going to change is again going to be all in that footer section. All right? This is the place, just so you know, if you look up on the screen here, I'm just going to link to Rankin's Facebook page, Rankin's Twitter page, Rankin's Google Plus page. But if you have those pages, if you have them, you want to link to your own pages. All right? And I don't want to get off on too big a tangent, but if this is maybe the most important part of class right here. If you've never done this before, go out to linkedin.com. It's one word, LINKED.com. Now, I can't make you do anything, and even if I could, I don't want to make you do things, but I would strongly suggest that you sign up for an account here. It's free. You can post your resume out there. Many people get hired from this. For lack of better words, it's Facebook with all the crap in it. So it's Facebook for professionals. Many places today, when they're looking for people, that's the first place they'll go. Yes.
I was going to say they make you sign up for it in one of the side classes.
Okay. But it's one thing that you will want to do. All right. And it's even allowed me, I've got a friend of mine, a guy that I used to hang around with, but his wife got offered a job for about $250,000 a year in Florida. So guess what? He moved. All right. But it's still a way I can contact him. All right. My profile is out there. I have not updated it. It still says I work for Blackhawk. And the reason it says that is my wife still lives in Illinois, so I don't want people to know that she's in Illinois and I'm here until she moves here. As soon as she does, then I'll update my LinkedIn profile. You can post your resume out there. You can post a profile about yourself out there. You can contact other people from out there. They don't inundate you. I'll bet you I've had a LinkedIn profile for 10 years. I'll bet you I've gotten 10 emails in that time. All right? And most of them have been my own fault because I forgot what my password is. All right, so again, we want to get to here. So we're going to open up part 4. All right? And as mentioned, what we want to do is now we have to add more stuff in here. Now, before we do this, please look up on the screen here. You're all going to have to do this to make it work. All right? And there's a hard way to do this, and there's an easy way to do this. If you look up on the screen here, you don't have to do what I'm telling you to do, but I want you to watch this. Okay? We can use the glyphicons that are available in Bootstrap, but they're kind of ugly. They're sort of cheesy looking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out to Font Awesome. You don't have to do this because I'm just going to show you. And notice it says Font Awesome Icons. And it's out under fontawesome.io. Again, you don't have to go out there. But I want to go out there to show it to you. So if you go out there, they claim they've got, last time I heard it was several thousand icons, but there's a bunch of, you can see as you work your way through here. Okay? The reason that I'm having you use this and use Font Awesome is with the new version of Bootstrap, they don't have the glyphicons anymore. So you might as well learn the right way to do this right now. Okay? So I'm going to go and do one more thing here. I'm going to type in here Font Awesome CDN. All right. Everybody see that line in blue? You don't have to put that in yet either, but does everybody see the line in blue? That's going to allow us to use Font Awesome. Now, you have to put it in like as if you're adding a new CSS file. So I'll give you that in just a second. But you're going to need a link tag, all right? And you're going to need a rel equal style sheet. And then the href is going to be this. It doesn't matter where you put it. If you put it above your stuff or below above your CSS or below your CSS. But the line I want you all to put in, I'm going to have to shrink that a little bit so you can all see it. Let me put the rel equal style sheet on a new line. Hopefully that's not so small that you can't read it. But go and put that line in. This is in your part 4, so put that in. That allows us to be able to go in and use Font Awesome icons. Notice again, it's in the head section. Make sure you change your title to part 4 and then put this in. I put it above mine, but it really shouldn't matter if you put it above, below, or whatever. And I want to make sure, let's go back to here. That should be correct then, yeah. So we are adding the ability to use Font Awesome icons to our site. Does that make sense? All right. Now, you don't have to do this, but if you please look up on the screen here. I'm going to go out there again, and I'm going to go out to Font Awesome site. There I am, so let's type in, again, Font Awesome icons. There they are. So let's suppose for a second I want to use one of these. Everybody with me? I want to use one. All right, so I go out to the icons, and there they are. And let's just say for whatever reason I just see this anchor. I want to use that. So I click on it, and notice what it shows me. This is then what I have to add in order to be able to use that. It says I'm going to use an icon. Its class is FA for Font Awesome, Font Awesome-anchor, and it even puts in our stuff for accessibility. The area hidden says that, hey, if the person can't, if they've got a screen reader, meaning they can't see, don't even show it because it's just wasting resources. Does that make sense? All right. So what we want to put in then, does everybody have this? All right. Is you want to come in and after you finish those divs, so that, where are we? We're down here So you were still inside of our div class equal nav bar bottom. We just put in this. This is what you put in so far. All right? You want to add the stuff now to it that's now shown there in gray. Make sure it's within the div that we put at the top and the div at the bottom. All right? Which ends our footer area. All right? I'm going to leave it like that. Hopefully everybody can see it okay. And I'll give you a couple minutes to put that in. You also see where it says FA-2X? That means make it 2 times as big as it normally would be. All right, because if it was 1X, it's pretty small. Yours may look a little funky when you run it. We are going to have to go in and put a little bit of CSS in, about 5 or 6 lines, and we'll do that next. Like I said, if you save it and run it, it may look a little funky. We're going to have to put some CSS in. So if you finish this already, you can open up your style.css file for this folder. Make sure it's for part 4. Like I said, I'll give you the code in just a minute. It's about 6 or 7 lines, something like that, that we have to have. It's not long. Is what we're doing, does it make sense to you? I'm saying there's a lot of stuff to have to put, to kind of stomach, for lack of better words, with all these different divs and whatever. But like I said, there's a lot of ways to try to teach you this stuff. We've talked about trying to buy a Bootstrap book, and good, bad, or indifferent, most of the Bootstrap books, they really suck, just so you know. They're not nearly as good as the actual Bootstrap documentation. I contacted a publisher because I wanted to write my own Bootstrap book, and they were like, most of the Bootstrap books people don't buy because they're just not that good. I understand that. That's why I want to write a better one. No, we're not interested. Okay. Again, make sure that is inside of your div that's up on line 72 that ends on line 94. Weird things can happen when you put divs outside of where they're supposed to be. Stuff can flip all over the place on the screen or whatever. It just does. Everybody have that? What?
No.
Like I said, you're going to have to learn to type faster. Next semester, when we do code, we're going to be like this. So that's a fun thing to do during your Christmas break is to, or your holiday break is to learn how to type faster. Looking at that code, if you have finished, we're telling it class equals navbar text pull right. So we're telling it to right justify. The href should make sense. That's nothing new there. Target equal blank for all three of them. Again, class for every time, FA for font awesome, FA-Facebook-square, FA-Twitter-square, FA-Google-plus-square, for those. And they're all 2 times their regular size. There are rounded ones also. I just picked the square. I thought they looked better. All right, there's a lot of different ones that you can use that are in there. If you go back later and decide you want to put different icons or add a LinkedIn icon, you could do that. All right. So again, if you've done that, and if you save it and run it, it may look a little different than this, but the idea is these things should be down there. So let's take a look at the little bit of CSS you have to put in. That's it right there. That's it. We will keep adding to this CSS file as we go on. All right? And it'll eventually get to where there's 50 or 60 lines in there, but this is the start of it. When you get done with that, save it, go back to your index.html file and run it, and then ideally, it'll look more like the one that I showed you when I ran mine. If you'd stop for a second, look on the screen. I want to make sure you understand this. We're saying that any anchor text that's in our nav bar, so any anchors that are in there, notice the first thing it says is color inherit. When you ran yours the first time, what may have happened is those icons may have been blue. That's just the default color that they get being in the nav bar that they're in, the inverse nav bar. By saying color equal inherit, it should turn all of them gray. Text decoration none, what does that do? Gets rid of the underlines. And the footer text, I'm trying to make it bigger. Font size of 1M would be 16 points, so 1.5M should be 24 points. Any questions on that? Then save all of that, close all of those, copy the entire folder to your Part 5 folder, open the Part 5 folder index file. You're going to have to open up the style.css file also, but we'll start with the index file. Change the title to Part 05. This will be all we do today. Yes.
I do have one question. Mine's
if you'd all stop for a second and look up on the screen here. All right? The last one that we do is going to be, it's going to look like this. We're adding what's called a Jumbotron to the top. If you decide later you want to play with the colors and you don't like the gray, then change it. It's not a problem whatsoever. All right? But this is typically what you have in a Bootstrap site. And notice if I click Bootstrap 3, it's going to go to the Bootstrap 3 stuff. And if I click Bootstrap 4, the button there, it's going to go to the, yes it will, come on, to the new Bootstrap 4 stuff. All right? So, to do this, as always, first come over here and change. So now you've got part 5 on your name. Okay? If you look up on the screen here, we said what? If this is our document, right here, we've done this and we call that our header. I think everybody would agree with this. We did this and we called it our footer. So what's left is what goes in here, right? So you really probably should put another comment right between where it says end header area and start footer area that says begin content area, because that's what we're putting in next, is the content. All right? So the content is what goes between our header area and our footer area. So there's, I should have probably put begin there, but there's our beginning of our content area, and there's the end of our content area. All right? And that is everything. The only thing that's missing is that line that says end content area right there, because I don't think I have room to put all that in. So there. That's what you got left to put in. Okay? Put that in, save it, run it, then you should have the Jumbotron, and the buttons that are in the Jumbotron should both be, they should both work. All right? I'll be right back.
first ending div tag, is that actually ending div class Jumbotron text only?
Yes. Now, this is all we're going to do on this for today, but when you're all done, when you run it, if it appears to work okay, close everything out, again, save everything, copy everything over, but actually before you do that, we're gonna have to make one more change. We have to add 2 lines of code to our CSS file. So while we wait, do that then. When you run it, it may look a little smushed at the top of your screen, so we're gonna fix that. And that's what we have to fix with our CSS. Is this making sense? I will tell you that, and I'm not saying this because I'm doing it, believe me. You don't know me very well, but honest to God, I don't have much of an ego. I don't think I'm all that. But that said, you are learning a skill that most people who are in the web development field do not know. Yes.
The Jumbotron, the text center, is that just one of the terms that are in the Bootstrap if you look up?
Yes, the Jumbotron, if you go and you look in the, if for example, you go in and you look at the bootstrap.min.css, you'll find it in there. That's just the thing that's around the top. That's what it's referred to as. I don't know who came up with that, but somebody did. And again, we're not changing it. You get a default gray color with black text. If you decide later you want to play with this stuff and use your own CSS file and I'm a Packer guy, if I could make mine green and gold. I know Tony's a Patriot guy. I don't know exactly what their colors are.
Dark blue, red, and silver.
Dark blue, red, and silver. Okay, you could do that. All right, whatever. I suppose that if I was ever looking for a job in Chicago, probably wouldn't want to use green and gold. All right, but it would make me sick to my stomach to have to use blue and orange. So I'd rather not get the job than do that. Anybody see the game yesterday, the Bear game where they blocked the field goal? The guy ran it back 80 yards. He stopped at the 2-yard line, and a guy from Pittsburgh hit the ball out of his hands.
No.
It was like in there for the dumbest plays that you'll ever see. It's already been tabbed the dumbest play of the year, and I loved it because it was a Bear. I just hated the fact that they won.
They won, though, yeah.
If there'd be a way for them to go 0-16, for the Cubs to go 0-162, and the Bulls to go 0-82, I'd be nothing but happy. And being a Brewer fan, they handed it to the Brewers this weekend. So give them credit where it's due. But the good news is, if they make the World Series, last year I was at a bar karaokeing and I watched 1 inning of the World Series, and that was it. Because the Cubs are in it, absolutely no interest. Everybody have that? All right, hopefully it worked for everybody, but like I said, right now, your Jumbotron may look squished at the top. So, go to your style.css file and add that body thing. Put it at the top. Start realizing that when you create things, put them in a natural order. Body means affect the entire body. Okay? If I had something like footer, like we have, notice footer goes at the bottom. Start writing CSS and doing things this way. All right? And many of you will be very happy with what I'm about to say. I did not take off for this. On your next test, if any of you write separate CSS files for each page on your, you're going to get hit big time. I'm going to see how many points I can take off, and I'm going to take that many off. There should be one style.css file that handles all your pages. All right. Also, a couple of you, and it could have been a lot of different reasons, you should always have that folder with the file inside of the folder. I didn't take off if you didn't do that. All right. This is saying to add a bunch of padding at the top, and hopefully after you do that, you run it. Now it's not. You'll see a little bit of padding at the top. In other words, it's not smushed all the way to the top. You could play with this if you wanted to, needed to, had to. Remember, because now you know that's padding just on the top, right? We could add padding bottom if we wanted to. There's a lot of ways you could play with this. I'm keeping it simple. All right? Everybody has this done now? We've all got done with the first 5 steps, correct? Good. I'm very proud of all of you. In all seriousness, we're about 40% done on the first day. That's great. Yes?
My icons are messed up.
Pardon me?
My icons are messed up.
Icons are messed up. Well, they're in there twice. They must be really good. Have you tried literally just closing out of there and then opening it up again? But you have to close out of that. I'd save everything, close out of it. And in fact, just to be sure, go back to your code. And bring the code up. I just want to see it. Bring it up once in like Node.js plus if you have that on your system. Try to run it through there if you've got that one. So just do a run and choose. No, there's something there. Okay, I'm looking at that. I need to see your CSS.
Yeah.
Okay, go back to your other file again. If you want, you can zip your folder when you leave and send it to me, and I'll look at it. It looks correct to me. All right. All right. We'll pick up on this tomorrow, okay? It's 9:45, so let me start on this. What I'm going to do, now, what I'm going to tell you right now, this may sound a little, for lack of better words, a little hokey, but we're doing it anyway. All right? Does everybody in this room right now, all 8 of you, either have a selfie of yourself or you could take a selfie of yourself? Yes? Okay. Because what we're going to do, what we're going to do, in fact, let me stop this.